De-Esser Pro, obviously a natural sounding de-esser, but it can actually do much more than that. It can de-harsh basically any kind of an instrument, any kind of a sound, but it can also be used for other creative purposes. But let's just use it as a de-esser for now, and we'll go over the interface here and see how it works. Let's focus on this part right here for now. Go ahead and bypass T-De-Esser Pro, so it's off. Let's just listen to this track raw.
I'm lost in emotion, consumed by your love, and I can't escape.
So there's some really harsh S's in there.
I'm lost in emotion.
So now let's turn on T-De-Esser Pro and de-ess this track. Overall, it's pretty simple to use, pretty easy to figure out. And you'll have some tool tips pop up whenever you just hover over some of these controls. All right, so the first thing I'm actually going to do is come down here to my filter. So one of the cool things about T-De-Esser Pro is we can set the frequency range wherever we want, and we can also hear it. So you can hear the range that we are targeting. Let me show you here. So if I move this around, I can target just the area that I want. Now, of course, you can also use these buttons, and that will, move around your frequency range from the high end, the high, the mid, and the low high very quickly there.
I'm lost in emotion, consumed.
Let's go back to this filter here. All right, so that's S. That's a lot of S here. Right? Don't want it down here. Not a lot of S down there, right? So just set this up wherever you want. We can also hear the difference. So we know what we're pulling out. So I'm going to use my processing amount here. So now we're not pulling anything out, of course. So let's go ahead and pull this down. There we go. Really getting those S's without taking out too much, of course.
And I can't escape.
So it's obviously too much, okay? I don't want to reduce the entire track, and I don't want to make my singer sound like she has a lisp. If you de-ess too much, then those S's start sounding like in just this really awful lispy sound. All right, so let's take off the difference there, and we'll tune this up.
I'm lost in emotion, consumed by your love.
You see the gain reduction over here.
And I can't escape.
Very good. Again, I don't want to pull it down too much, because then I'm really, getting the body of that track.
Consumed by your love, and I can't escape.
That's pretty good right there. If I bypass that,
and I can't escape.
Much more harsh. Turn this back on.
And I can't escape.
Now I can also pull this down even further and then use my mix control here. This is kind of a cool trick. If you want to keep things sounding even more natural, I can let some of that unaffected S sound through and then over process it here to a, sometimes a pretty cool effect. Let's see if it works here.
I'm lost in emotion, consumed by your love, and I can't escape.
So it actually sounds pretty good, but in this case, I'm going to take my mix up, maybe around 90%, and then pull this back up.
And I can't escape.
There we go. Want it to sound natural. I don't want to kill the vibe here. Don't want to kill the top end. Now we also have an output amount right here. So if you end up reducing the overall level, you can compensate that right here. I can alt click that, set it to the default. Let's move on.
My heart is an ocean, but it's not big enough.
Going to pull it up just a bit to compensate for any volume loss that we have. Then we have our intensity, sharpness, even an attack and release control. So again, we have full control over the de-essing that's going on here. So the intensity is sort of like the amount. Think of it the way compression works, 1-to-1, 10-to-1, whatever, right? So I pull that intensity way down here.
Lost in emotion, consumed.
As you can see, there's no reduction up here.
By your love.
Just pull this up.
I'm lost in emotion, consumed by your love, and I can't escape.
That's a lot of reduction there.
And I can't escape.
It sounds okay with just the vocal soloed, but one thing that can happen is it might sound good soloed, but once you bring in all of your other instruments, if you de-ess too much, you kind of kill the vibe of the vocal. So I think my intensity is up way too much. Now, of course, one thing we could do is just reduce the mix a bit, but let's hear this.
I'm lost in emotion, consumed by your love, and I can't escape.
I think it's a little bit too much, actually. Let's pull that intensity down so we're not cutting out so much of that top end.
I'm lost in emotion, consumed by your love, and I can't escape.
All right. Then we can mess around with the sharpness, so the smoothness of the de-essing onset. Then you have your attack and release. So how quickly do you want that to attack? You know, the speed of de-esser compression, and then the release of that.
My heart is an ocean.
So as you can tell right here.
Heart is an ocean, but it's not big.
So it's not really attacking very quickly now. So let's pull this down so it attacks instantly.
Heart is an ocean, but it's not big enough to fix these mistakes.
That's a bit too quick there, isn't it? Let's give us a little bit of lead time on that.
My heart is an ocean, but it's not big enough to fix these mistakes.
That's better. Of course, just adjust it to whatever fits your track or whatever you're doing there. Then, of course, same thing for the release. Do you want that sort of compression to stay on longer or go off quicker there?
My heart is an ocean, but it's not big enough.
So in this case, it sounds very unnatural with that release way up here because it's releasing, you know, throughout the track.
My heart is an ocean, but it's not big.
You can really hear the compression, not what we want. Of course, you may not want it to be instant either.
My heart is an ocean, but it's not big enough to fix these mistakes.
Right. Need to hold that a bit longer so it holds those S's that she kind of sings out a bit here.
My heart is an ocean, but it's not big enough to fix these mistakes.
There we go. Again, I'm not trying to kill the vibe here.
To fix these mistakes.
Oh yeah, a lot of harshness in there. Let's turn that back on.
To fix these mistakes.
Very good. Much, much, much better there. So then we have a look ahead, which I have on, and this can help be even more accurate, maybe give more clarity to the de-esser processing. I like to have it on. Of course, it's going to add some latency, so you may not want that on if you're trying to track with this plugin, but in general, I like to have it on just to make things, you know, a little more clear, a little more accurate. We've already seen the mix control, very cool to have that in there. Then you have a quality control in here up to 16x to deal with your aliasing. And then you have a link for the way it treats both sides of the de-essing, or we can actually change this here from left, right to mid side. So that might be another cool thing you want to check out. Just do it in mid side processing.
My heart is an ocean, but it's not big enough to fix these mistakes.
Actually works pretty well like that.
To fix these mistakes.
So again, we can change the linking amount for the left and right, or the mid and the side. And then we have a high cut filter built in right here, which can really come in handy if you want to get rid of some of that top end information.
My heart is an ocean, but it's not big enough to fix.
So in this case, I might just pull out some of that extremely high content. Then over here, we have some saturation. This is another cool addition to this plugin. And then we have this filter button, so we can add that saturation to the entire signal or just to the filter range. Make it a little bit more unique, especially applying it to just that filtered area. Let's hear that. Let me take it off of filter and just pull the saturation up for now.
My heart is an ocean, but
Let's put this on solo.
my heart is an ocean, but it's not big enough.
So now we're saturating everything, right? Okay, let's turn on just that filtered area.
My heart is an ocean, but it's not big enough to fix these mistakes.
Of course, the overall amount of that saturation.
To fix these mistakes.
It's kind of cool on just that filtered area.
To fix these mistakes.
Just that filtered area. Of course, that's a bit too much there. Okay, bypass.
Not big enough to fix these mistakes.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. That is way too harsh for me there, folks. Let's turn that back on.
My heart is an ocean, but it's not big enough to fix these mistakes.
Much, much better. I might pull that saturation amount down a little bit, this down a bit. Again, mess around with your sharpness, your attack, your release, maybe a slightly faster attack, a little bit more intensity. Pull the mix down a bit. Gonna come down a little further this way. Pull that up. There we go.
My heart is an ocean, but it's not big enough to fix these mistakes.
Bypass that.
To fix these mistakes.
Ooh, harsh. All right, I think we got it there. Let's take this off of solo and listen to it.
And now I feel haunted by the ghosts of our past. I wish we were good. I'm lost in emotion, consumed by your love, and I can't escape. My heart is an ocean, but it's not big enough to fix these mistakes. Take me far away from where we both started. I need to go back where we last departed somewhere.
There we go. Sounds much better there if I bypass that.
To go back where we last departed somewhere.
These S's right in here are pretty harsh.
To go back where we last departed somewhere. To go back where we last departed somewhere.
Yeah, it's much better. Again, check that filtered area. That can really come in handy when you're setting up your frequency range. So that's the area that we're targeting. Of course, hear the difference.
To go back where we last departed somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want it down here because then
To go back where we last departed.
I'm cutting out way too much of the body of that signal. Of course, unless you want to do some mix tricks here with your mix amount.
To go back where we last departed somewhere.
Which can be, you know, kind of cool. But in this case, I want this up to about 90-ish. And this somewhere around there. All right, very good.
To go back where we last departed somewhere. We can put our past behind us anywhere. We can go anywhere.
All right, so we also have some more options in our hamburger menu here. A lot of presets built in right there. We can scale the GUI if you want to make this bigger. We also have a bypass button built in here if you don't want to use the one in your DAW, and you have some A and B settings, which can make it really quick to audition, you know, different settings, then choose the one that you want to go with. So I kind of like the setting that I have now.
I'm lost in emotion.
But if I wanted to try something else, I'll just come over here to B, and maybe I'll use a preset, maybe crispy female vocals.
Lost in emotion, consumed
Of course, adjust it.
by your love, and I can't escape.
Make sure I'm getting those S's.
Lost in emotion.
Okay.
I'm lost in emotion, consumed by your love.
Like an A and B between those very quickly here.
I'm lost in emotion, consumed by your love, and I can't escape.
And if you happen to like one over the other, we can copy it to the other slot. So let's say we prefer the A here. I can click copy to B, then make sure I click that. Then whenever I come over to B, we have the same exact settings. So that means I can make a few tweaks to my overall A setting, right? So make some tweaks over here on B, maybe a little more intensity, maybe change the sharpness, maybe change the attack. Of course, have the look ahead on probably. And then I can A and B with just a couple different tweaks to see what sounds better.
I'm lost in emotion.
Go to A.
I'm lost in emotion, consumed by your love.
All right. So that is all of the controls here on T-De-Esser Pro, and that's how we can use it for de-essing or removing harshness, of course. Let's move on to a couple different examples, then I'll show you where you can pick it up. Just go for this drum loop here. Okay, let's say that I like this drum loop, but I don't want that kick in there, right? I don't want any of that low end. Well, guess what? You can actually use a de-esser for that. Or at least this, at least this de-esser we can. I'm going to turn on the filter and leave the filter on. Okay, normally you wouldn't do that. Normally you're going to use the filter to, audition the area that we're trying to remove. But in this case, I'm going to leave the filter on, and we're going to use the filter area for the area that we want to keep. So I don't want the kick in there. Maybe I'm making some kind of an intro or something, right? Very cool. And then on another track, I would have the full drum track without T-De-Esser Pro on it. And then we, of course, move into that. So just let me copy these tracks real quick. Okay, let me pull De-Esser Pro back up. Again, we have it on this yellow clip right there. Making kind of an intro. Again, removing the kick out of this loop. There we go. Then you have the full loop there. So it's not just for removing harshness, you can also do some creative things with it as well. I can also use it to, instead of removing the kick drum in that case, maybe I want to de-harsh those cymbals. Let's just hear just the drum loop. All right. Now in this case, I'm going to turn on the filter and then find the area for maybe the cymbals or the hi-hats, right? And just de-harsh those a bit. Just the intensity, the sharpness, the attack. Compensate your volume. There we go. Maybe add a bit of saturation to that. There we go. And there we go. We have successfully de-harshed that top end content, those cymbals, the shaker, the hi-hats, and even some of the snare in that loop. Another thing that you can use your de-essers for is to de-harsh your guitar. You can remove hair from like a really high gain guitar sound, or even some just standard harshness that you might get. But let's check this out real quick. Make sure I solo that. All right, so there's some top end harshness on this. Let's pop on our de-esser. And the first thing I'm going to do is listen to my filter. I don't want that hair on top there, right? Can also use our high cut here. Again, I don't want to kill the vibe here. I'm going to put a bit of saturation on just that frequency range. And pull that intensity up there. Have my look ahead on, of course. Of course, adjust this to your preferences. There we go. Very cool. Maybe same thing on this sample here. Of course, you can do some creative things with this if you want. But I really just want the hiss out of that. Move up there. Okay, there we go, man. That is T-De-Esser Pro. It's like a Swiss Army knife of a de-esser. Don't just use it for your de-essing, use it for your de-harshing, and use it for creative purposes as well. So if you want to pick this up for yourself, you can head right over here. Of course, we'll have a link in the description below. You can read more about it, watch another video over here, maybe get some ideas of, some other ways that you might want to try it out. All right, so just head over here. There's also a free version of this that we've reviewed before. You can head over here and pick up T-De-Esser Plus. You can download that now for $0. Of course, you're not going to get all of the professional features that we have in Pro, but you can get sort of a taste of how this works. All right, so I'll have this link in the description below. Head over there and check out T-De-Esser Pro from Techivation.